Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Jordan here and welcome to my first gaming monitor review. Today we're looking at the AOC ACON AG273QCG gaming monitor. Now this has a whole host of features, so I'll cover some of the main ones, then we'll look at the others as we go throughout the video. So the AG273QCG is a 144 or 165Hz overclockable G-Sync 27-inch curved monitor with a 1 millisecond response time and QHD 2560x1440p resolution. This is using a TN panel with a 99% claimed sRGB coverage, so it could potentially make for a good monitor for those that want to do a little bit of photo or video editing as well as gaming. For reference, everything cable and connection wise you could need and connect is included in the box, which is good to see. You've got an HDMI, DVI, DisplayPort, 3.5mm audio and power cable, all of which are 1.8 meters in length. Here are the main parts that we're going to need, and it's a super simple setup. Slide the adjustable arm onto the base, screw in from the bottom using the thumb screw, and then once that's done it's just a case of lining up the monitor on the back of the mount and it simply clicks on. And it's also really easy to remove should you need to. Also, for those of you that like to mount your monitors onto arms or the wall, this uses a standard 75x75mm base mount. While we're here, the stand offers a great range of adjustment from base rotation, height adjust and pivot. So let's cover the front of the monitor, then we'll work our way around. The first thing you might notice is the bezel or lack thereof. Now when the monitor is off, the bezel looks smaller than it actually is when it's on. The panel doesn't really stretch the entire width of the bezel, but it's pretty close and not really enough to complain about. At the bottom, AOC have gone for a pretty simple red logo on the small chin. Then under that we'll find the joystick menu controller with some RGB, which I'll show you in a minute. In terms of the ins and outs, we have the microphone and headphone jack, full USB 3.0 ports, one of which is fast charging, USB in port for your PC, a Mickey Mouse power adapter, DisplayPort 1.2, HDMI 1.4, and last but not least, a 3.5 audio in jack. So using the joystick under the monitor is fairly easy to help navigate the different menus. You do have quick options to go between DisplayPort and HDMI, and also control the RGB downlighting and what's on the back. In the further settings you'll find all the more advanced options such as the brightness, contrast, your gamma controls. It's all fairly easy to operate and understand with the little joystick. Now touching on that joystick, as I did mention underneath there is some RGB lighting. So the RGB that you'll see on this joystick that kind of glows on the desk will match what's on the back of the monitor on the actual RGB ring. Personally, I don't really see the point of it being on the back, as if you're going to be using the monitor, the likelihood is you're going to be looking at the monitor and not the back of it. So I think it's a little bit unnecessary there. And then the downlighting by the joystick isn't really that bright, so you'd have to be in pitch black to actually really see it on your desk. So again, it's a little bit of a thing that's not really needed. On each side of the monitor you have got a little piece of plastic that pulls out that you can hang your headphones on. Personally, I wouldn't use this, and I'd advise getting a proper headset holder if using something that's fairly heavy or pretty expensive. So we've had a look around the monitor, but of course the main reason we're here is to see how it performs. So let's give you my thoughts. So let's first talk about the gaming experience, which is likely to be the main reason you're going to buy this monitor. Now unfortunately I don't have the multiple thousands of pounds to spend on a camera that could film this in 144Hz or even 165, so you can actually see how smooth this is. So I'm afraid you're going to have to take my word for the following segment of the video. The G-Sync 144Hz or even overclocked to 165Hz is a buttery smooth experience with a very fast response rate. Over the games I tried it on How Let Loose and Dirt 5, both games were very enjoyable and immersive with a super smooth motion. I will say however, going between the 144Hz and the 165 overclocked option, I found it very hard to distinguish and see any benefit to the extra 19Hz, but some people may be able to see it. Now as a side note, you'll only be able to play on the high refresh rates with DisplayPort, as HDMI limits it to 60Hz. And for reference, I was playing using a GCX 1660 on medium settings. Anything higher quality wise, I'd recommend something with a bit more beef, especially if you're going to be playing in 1440p. In terms of colour, it's very good out the box without calibration. AOC claim 99% sRGB coverage, but some people have reported about 95%. Considering it's a TN panel and not an IPS, that's not too bad. And the monitor did have a slight granular look to it, which seems to be a commonly reported thing too. It just seems to take away the crispness from the image, but it's not too bad that it automatically makes this monitor a write-off. It's a pretty bright display too. What you're seeing on camera isn't full brightness, just to keep everything you're watching well lit and not blown out in certain areas. But when gaming off camera I did raise the brightness, and it's certainly bright enough to use under my office lights and even studio lights too. Just be wary, you will lose some of the blacks if you really do crank the brightness. Viewing angles are good, and with the gameplay you're seeing now is actually being played off at a pretty skew angle, but for the majority of the time you're unlikely to play at the angle I was, but it can be done should you need to. Overall, I do like this monitor. The addition of the USB hub is very handy, especially if you're someone like me that uses a lot of USB peripherals. It's got a good build and I especially like the red stand. What a coincidence, eh? There are a couple of niggles though, such as the headset holders being a bit flimsy and the RGB lighting's a bit lackluster. But the big main con I can see with this monitor is just the price. Now admittedly the £650 asking price on launch was a little bit steep. Nowadays it retails for about $550, which while is better, it's still expensive when you can find other 165Hz offerings for £100 less that feature IPS panels. All in all, if there's something that absolutely screams out to you that means you have to have this monitor, then by all means splash the cash. But if you don't find anything of that nature, then I'd recommend you shop around and save yourself some of that hard-earned dough. If there's anything else you'd like to know, then of course leave a comment and I'll get back to you. I'll also put the Amazon link to this monitor in the description if you fancy picking one up. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to subscribe and ding the bell so you don't miss a video. Thank you to AOC for sending this out for me to look at. Thank you all for watching and I'll see you all in the next video.